We're going to switch to our last slot for the digital sustainability part. You can switch to the main stage afterwards. And we're going to talk with Sebastien Monchamps, who's a CTO of digital at BPI France, who's a public bank. Hello, Sebastien. And Rousseau, who is CTO for Sipios, who helped BPI France talk about how to build a more sustainable digital bank.
Hello.
Stage is all yours. Hello to both of you.
Great. Super happy to be here. We spoke 1 year ago at API Days, so we're glad to be back to speak on a different topic.
Yeah.
Great. So to give a very quick intro of the speakers. So I'm Woody Rousseau. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Sipios. We're tech and product experts in the fintech space, and we're trying to raise the level of the net promoter score of the industry to 60, which is a big mission. And for that, we help customers such as Contos, Sunday App, or BPI France to design and code the apps in this space.
And I am Sebastien Monchamps. I am the CTO of BPI France Digital. I will explain in a few minutes what exactly is BPI France. But first, Woody, can you tell us what we are going to talk about during these 20 minutes, please?
Absolutely. We're going to spend 20 minutes together, and we're basically going to explain to you how our green IT approach has been missing a big portion of the challenge we're trying to tackle together, and what we've launched and learned to remedy it.
Thanks, Woody. So, well, I think that like all of you, we had at BPI France and Sipios a very rough 2020 and 2021 years. We had to manage the crisis. We had to work on the acceleration of the digital transformation, the global digital transformation. And we also had to experience new ways of working with remote working. And we have all been under the impression that we were in a never-ending tunnel, working really hard, much harder than before the COVID. And this situation, of course, applied to us as well. Especially at BPI France, as we are the French public investment bank, and we have a mission to help companies to grow and strengthen the French economy, we have been asked to do a lot on the economical front in order to help the companies to face the financial crisis created by COVID. We have, for example, helped to provide more than 700,000 loans for 140 billion euros to French companies as part of the financial crisis plan. And during these 2 years, we had an emphasis that was completely focused on delivery, creating new platforms, creating new activity, and helping the French companies all around the country. And to be honest, green IT wasn't really our priority during that period. We were obviously following what was going on the market and what the leaders on the subject were talking about, but it wasn't really connecting with our day-to-day activities. We were really in this tunnel at that time, focus on our delivery, focus on having platforms that were not going down during peaks, focusing on delivering the money to all the companies that needed them. And then in May 2020, BPI France announced that it was going to become the French climate bank, meaning that BPI France was shifting its business model in order to become the leader in financing the ecological transition in the country. So it was something that was heavily marketed in the press, as you can see on the left of the slide. And at that time, we were on the technology side a little bit careful about what it was actually meaning for us, because you know, sometimes, and we would not be the first company to do some greenwashing. So that was in May 2021, and the business asked us immediately to work on a digital, on an ecological transition dashboard for all of our clients, and we delivered it a few days ago, December 2021, and at that point it became extremely clear for us that it was not a marketing thing. It was really something that was going to change the business. So we had immediately a very strong feeling that on the technology side, we needed obviously to help the business to work on the green IT, on the ecological transition subjects, but that we on the tech side had to work on green IT for us in order to be aligned with the business vision of being the climate bank in France. So I will give you the hand, Woody, to explain to us a little bit more how we worked and coded in a sustainable way.
Yes, because obviously once we realized that we had a big challenge ahead of us, we started thinking about how do we change to code in a sustainable way. And we started with the theory, of course, which is basically that we need to reduce the amount of servers, devices, and network infrastructures that were created, and that we also had to limit the energy consumption of the apps. And in order to do that in our daily work, what it means is that we can work on the efficiency of our code, the application side, which means performant code and light network transfers. And that we could also work on the infrastructure side to have servers that did not consume a lot of resources. So when we figured out that theory, we launched a cross-functional team that participated in the Apidays Digital Sustainability Challenge, which was a great event, which we probably will tackle next year again. So it's a team with all the skills needed to create change in the way we code and design apps. And with a few workshops, we started getting some results. The first insight was that we could figure out some proxy metrics that were not really CO2, but that provided us a feeling that we're improving the situation. On the dev side, we could look at the Google Lighthouse score to assess the efficiency of the front-end code. For the backend, we could use an application performance management tool such as Kibana or Datadog. And on the infrastructure side, we could mostly work with a proxy metric that is followed in FinOps streams, which is basically to reduce the cloud bill, which is in a way correlated to CO2, even though I know that the cloud providers are working in a way to get the final metric and not just the bill, which is going to be a great add to the way we work.
So we had a few interesting results that we are sharing with you on the right side of this slide. And we managed to link them to some proxy metrics. So basically, what did we learn from this sustainability challenge and from the team that we created? First, the first thing is really that modern frameworks and development languages are really designed to help the developers to code efficiently and to integrate sustainability in the way that they code. You are able with what we use, which is Angular Spring Boot, to minimize bundles, to do auto scaling with the cloud infrastructure, to use CDN to avoid multiple downloads of the same file, etc., etc. For the security and for the performance as well, it is not enough to integrate control points on the sustainability in the technical conception in order to develop correctly. We have to size the image, we have to select the dependencies that we have, we have to shut down the servers during the night So we have a lot of stuff to do in order to have an end-to-end way to develop an application in a sustainable way. We actually have a little trick that works quite well when we do the design of an application or a feature in our rituals. I don't know if you know about the 6 thinking hats from Edward de Bono. You know, you have 6 colored hats, which are roles during the conception phase. And we found out that creating a role that is dedicated on sustainability during the conception phase, in order for this person to stress test and to challenge the way that the functions are designed regarding sustainability, is very helpful in order to achieve a sustainable conception of a feature or an application. So all of that was going the right way until we figured out that we were completely missing a key part of sustainability according to us. Woody?
Yes, so beginning of the year, I was watching a Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma, which you may have seen, which is very good and a bit frightening. And the documentary analyzes the way big techs such as Facebook, Twitter, basically have influence on the society. And one key segment of the documentary really hit me. It was former managers or founders of those companies that were explaining a key way on how their tech works and their product works. It's the 3 dials algorithm. Basically, they are trying to achieve 3 different targets at any given time. It's either growth, which is basically the tech company wants to acquire more users. The second one is engagement, which is basically you want users to spend as much time as possible on the app. And finally, there's monetization, which is to grab money from users, it's usually through ads. And they have a way to automatically move those dials depending on the target that they want to achieve. For instance, if they see that engagement is quite high for a user, they know that if they want to boost monetization, they can just put an ad on the video loop that you see in the screen. But if they see that the engagement is low, it's likely that they won't put ads, they will put videos that are going to have the user stay for a long period of time, looping through mostly useless videos. And so when I watched this documentary, obviously the key idea was this was shocking and unethical to have algorithm manipulate human brains. But you can also look at it in a different way, which is when you look at this feature, you can't think of a feature that consumes as much energy as this. It's basically a video feed. So it's the heaviest stuff you can have transferred in a network. So your business goal is basically to have the user download as much video as possible. And so it not only shocked us at unethical, but also as totally unsustainable. Even if they have to optimize the videos, I'm sure they're doing a lot of great things to optimize tech, just as we did before. But the main target is completely antagonist with sustainability. And it doesn't bring value to users, basically. It's not sustainable, it doesn't bring value. And our conviction from this moment on was that we also needed to try to avoid and to hunt for KPIs and objectives that are not bringing actual values to users, which we might call vanity metrics.
Another great example of that is the way that we hate ourselves when we spend 2 hours on YouTube Shorts or TikTok. It's exactly the same mechanism. So, and I hate myself a lot because I am a lot on YouTube Shorts. It's really a nightmare. So after realizing that, well, basically we looked at what we were doing at BPI France and we tried to find if we had some objectives that were actually kind of vanity metrics. And we actually found some. One example would be that the proposition of value from BPI France to its clients is basically that BPI France is here when you need the bank in order to accelerate your growth or to be present in the key milestones in the life cycle of a company. It's not the daily it's not a daily usage. And basically we found out that on some apps we had objectives to retain the customer and make sure that the customer would come back every day on our application. But this doesn't bring value to the client. It's not even aligned with our proposition of value for these clients. So these kind of metrics had to disappear. And we really started to think and work on that because we found out that it was completely off with our new vision of being the climate bank. Woody?
So we tried to provide a few of these vanity metrics, and on this screen you can see some of them. You have daily visits, you have referrals, you have numbers of APIs, which is something that some CIOs sometimes brag about, which is not, I think, a target in itself. But then you also have objectives that are aligned with what the users want. And we actually have a theory on how to figure those metrics out and how to link what we put in product backlogs to those metrics. And so if you can move to the next slide, the big idea behind it is to use something that we call lean engineering. And this is an idea that comes from Toyota, actually. It's the way they build their products. And the first step is to be really clear on the critical performance of the product, which is basically what the users want from the product they're going to use. We sometimes call those jobs to be done. It's basically users want to use a product to do a specific job, and you need to figure those out. So if you can move just to the next slide, Sebastien.
Yes, of course.
So we provided an example of a way to view those. So on the right side of the slide, you can see the 3 classic performance criteria that we have when we build financing products. So usually the users want to have real clarity on what the loan is going to cost them. Users want to know in real time when the application is moving along in the funnel. And finally, they want to get funds really quickly. And so we have a target of 7 days. So we know that those metrics are not vanity metrics. They're actually linked to what the users want. And we know that when we put features in the backlog, we know for sure that those features are going to bring values to the customer. So the key way to enforce this method and this theory that we're going to really try out in 2022 is to really distinguish performance criteria from those vanity metrics, which is what we showed before. So no daily visits, but real metrics that matter for the users. And then being really adamant about linking all the features that you put in the backlog to the critical performance. So you're trying to avoid features that just creep in the product and that make it basically not only include a lot of features that don't bring value, but also which make the products unsustainable.
Yeah. So as soon as we identified this key item that we were missing, we created our theory and we performed an assessment on where we were at BPI France. Basically, the outcome of all this at this point is that we know that we have a long way ahead of us in order to be true to the vision of being a sustainable bank from the technology side. So we will continue to work on what we presented to you previously, a little bit before in the presentation, regarding the way that we design our applications, that we design the features, that we measure our greenhouse gases impact. So we obviously will continue to work on all that. And in the meantime, we will also think about the product do some lean engineering and think really about the usage, the way that people are going to use the product and its feature in order to minimize the resources loss on the use of the product, and in order to maximize the value in a way that is completely coherent with the business value proposed by BPI France for its customer. So we really want to tackle this challenge in 2022, and I think that one of the key difficulty that we will face to tackle the challenge would be that the business is definitely at this point not aware and ready to create, let's say, sustainable features and a sustainable way to deliver the business value to the clients. So it is a key challenge ahead of us, which is a product challenge as well as a change management challenge within BPI France. We are really excited to try to tackle it and to present the results to you maybe next year during the Apidays 2022. Thank you to all of you for listening to us, and we are now ready to take your questions if you have. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you also for bringing up, because today we talked about sustainability, but we added the social impacts, and we added accessibility. We talked about hosting. Now you're adding the ethical part of sustainability, and I find it really interesting, your journey, and I hope that people can learn from that journey. And I would love to hear also, as you say, the change management next year. Just a quick references for people who need. There's the JEDI, the JEDI acronym, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. There's also another resource which is called Ethical OS, which is a broader resource that tells you about data management, about hate speech and everything. So a few resources that people can use, actually. Coming back to your awareness of the ethical, you mentioned, Woody, about the social dilemma. How did you manage to raise awareness, even if it's just the beginning, as you mentioned, Sebastien? How did you manage to raise awareness in the product team?
Well, I think that first of all, people are becoming aware of this in their personal life, and I've seen the documentary, but I've seen other people in the company talk about how social networks are falling out of grace, I think, because of these unethical ways to work. So in a way, it's already in people's heads, but I think we haven't yet managed to have product teams think about that while they're working. Basically, when they're thinking about something else, they're going to talk about it during coffee. But when they're designing features, we haven't been able, I think, yet to make this connection for them. So that's going to be a challenge ahead of us.
Yeah, it's
There is a little thing that is already in place at BPI France. BPI France is on one aspect a company that is very specific because the motto of BPI France is serving the future. So basically, when you enter BPI France, you are screened to fit with the culture that is one of being extremely involved in the way that the French economy is growing in a sustainable way, in a respectful way for the employees everywhere in France, for the companies and such. So when we started to talk a little bit around us about the fact that we needed to be more reasonable with the feature that we were creating, it's not, as Woody said, implemented as of today in the daily routines of everybody, but it caught the attention of everyone. So I think one of the key factors to answer your question is that we have a culture that was, even before we talked about sustainability, already fitting with this subject, and we didn't really know about it. So it's very promising for the future because we know that it will not be difficult to talk about sustainability with our employees. We are not, for example, an oil company. For an oil company, I think it's not in their nature to talk about sustainability to begin with.
Thank you so much, Sebastien. This is the last talk, and we're going to switch to another stage. So I would really like to thank you again for your talk. I would like to thank everybody for the great track that we had today, and I hope indeed we'll see you next year to talk more about your experience.